The Apache woman thought she'd die in those chains until the ranchers set her free. The desert was quiet, but the silence did not feel peaceful. It felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. The sun hung high and bright, beating down on the dry land with a strength that made everything look blurry. The ground was cracked, and the wind carried dust that scratched the skin like tiny needles. In this wide, empty space, the Apache woman walked slowly, her hands tied in front of her, heavy iron chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles, clinking softly with each step. She had been captured, and the feeling of being trapped never left her. It was not only the chains that held her, it was the fear, the shame, and the memory of the moment when she realized she had lost her freedom. She remembered the sounds of the raid, the shouting, the horses, and the sudden panic. She remembered running, then stopping, then falling. She remembered the moment when she saw the men coming toward her and understood there was no way to escape. Now she was being moved from one place to another like a piece of property. Her body was tired, but her mind was still awake. She watched every movement around her, listening to every sound. She did not trust anyone. She knew that people could be cruel, and she had seen enough to believe it. The man leading her did not say much. He was tall and wore a dusty coat. His face was rough, like the land itself. He walked quickly, not looking back. When she tried to look up at him, he turned his head away. She felt a cold anger inside her, but she kept it hidden. Anger would not help her. Anger would only make her weaker. She tried to remember the stories her elders told her when she was young. They spoke about strong women who never gave up, even in the worst situations. They spoke about people who kept their spirit alive, even when their bodies were hurt. She clung to those stories now. She told herself that she was not alone. She told herself that she would not lose her spirit. As the day went on, the sun became even hotter. The chains grew heavier, not because they changed, but because her body was getting weaker. Her feet began to swell, her skin became dry and tight. Her throat felt like it was filled with sand. She wanted to drink, but she knew that asking would only make things worse. The man leading her had not offered any water yet. Maybe he would, maybe he would not. She did not know. She tried to walk without making noise, but the chains kept clinking. The sound echoed in the quiet desert, like a reminder that she was trapped. She wanted to stop. She wanted to sit down and rest, but she knew that if she stopped, the man would force her to move again. She did not want to show weakness. She did not want to give him the satisfaction of seeing her fail. As the hours passed, her mind began to drift. She thought about her family, her home, and the people she had loved. She thought about the river where she used to wash clothes, the trees where she used to rest, and the open sky where she used to feel free. Those memories were like small lights in the dark. They kept her from giving up. She also thought about the stories of the Apache people. She remembered how her grandmother used to speak about the land as if it was alive. She used to say that the land could feel sadness and happiness. She used to say that the land could remember. The woman now wondered if the land could remember her too. Would the desert remember her footsteps? Would it remember the day she was taken away? She walked and walked, and the world around her did not change. The same dry bushes, the same dusty rocks, the same bright sky. It all looked the same, but she knew she was far from home. She knew that the people she loved were far away, and that made her heart ache. At one point, she heard the sound of hooves. She looked up quickly, but she did not see anyone. The sound was far away. It was the sound of a horse moving across the desert. She felt a small wave of hope. Maybe it was someone who could help her. Maybe it was someone who would see her and stop the men. but the sound faded away. She felt the hope disappear like a thin cloud. She knew that help would not come easily. She knew that she had to survive on her own. The man leading her stopped for a moment. He looked around, as if checking the distance. Then he walked a little closer to her. She expected him to say something cruel. She expected him to shout or push her. But he did not do anything. He just stood there quietly, his face unreadable. She kept her eyes forward. She did not want to show him that she was scared. She did not want to give him any reason to feel proud. She tried to breathe slowly, but her heart was beating fast. Her body felt like it was burning. After a few minutes, the man moved again. They continued walking, and the sun continued to beat down. The day seemed endless. The woman felt like she was trapped in a nightmare she could not wake up from. She tried to think of a way to escape. She tried to think of a plan. But the chains were too strong. The man was too strong. The desert was too wide. She knew that escape was not possible. Her thoughts became quieter. She began to feel a strange calm inside her. It was not peace. It was not happiness. It was something else. It was a sense of acceptance. She began to understand that her life might end in this desert. She began to understand that her body might fail. She began to understand that she might never see her family again. The thought made her feel cold. She felt a heavy sadness, but she also felt something else. She felt a strong desire to be remembered. She did not want her life to end without meaning. She wanted her story to matter. She thought about the people who would hear about her. She thought about the young girls who might learn her story. She thought about how she could become a symbol of strength. Even if she died, she could still become a symbol of courage. She could still become a story that others would remember. The idea gave her a small amount of strength. She held her head high. She continued walking. As the sun began to move toward the horizon, the desert became cooler. The wind changed. It became softer, and the sky began to turn orange and red. The woman felt a little relief. The day was ending, and night was coming. Night meant darkness, but it also meant a chance to hide. She looked at the horizon. In the distance, she could see something that looked like buildings. They were far away, but they were there. It gave her a small hope. Maybe those buildings belonged to someone who could help her. Maybe the man leading her was taking her to a place where she would not be treated badly, but she could not be sure. She had learned not to trust easily. The man finally stopped. He pointed to a small hill nearby. The woman understood that they would rest there for the night. She sat down carefully, feeling the chains pull at her skin. She felt pain in her wrists and ankles. She tried not to cry. She did not want to show weakness. The man made a small fire. He did not look at her. He did not speak. He simply sat and stared into the flames. The woman watched him from a distance. She wondered why he was so quiet. She wondered if he was thinking about something important. She wondered if he had ever been kind to someone before. As the night grew darker, the woman felt the cold. She shivered, and the chains clinked softly. She wrapped her arms around her body, trying to stay warm. She thought about her family again. She thought about the faces of her mother and father. She thought about her sister, who was brave and strong. She thought about the laughter and the songs. She missed her home more than ever. She missed the feeling of being free. She missed the feeling of walking without chains. She looked up at the stars. The sky was full of bright lights. The stars seemed calm and peaceful. She wondered if the stars were watching her. She wondered if they were sending her strength. She closed her eyes for a moment and tried to imagine her life before this day. Then she opened her eyes again. She knew she could not change the past. She knew she could only live in the present. She knew she had to survive. She lay down on the ground, still chained, and stared at the fire. She did not sleep. She could not sleep. She stayed awake all night, listening to the wind and the distant sounds of the desert. She waited for the morning, and she waited for what would happen next. The chains felt heavy, but her spirit was still alive. She was not ready to give up. She was not ready to die. And somewhere inside her, a small hope began to grow, a hope that one day she would be free again. The next morning came slowly, like a careful visitor who did not want to wake anyone. The sun rose in the sky, casting a soft light over the desert. The air was still dry, but it felt less harsh than the day before. The woman could feel the heat returning, but she was also aware of something else, something that made her heart beat faster. The man who had been leading her was already awake. He stood beside the fire, staring into the small flames as if he was thinking about something important. He did not look at her. He did not speak. He seemed like a man who had many thoughts but very few words. The woman remained sitting where she was, her body tired but alert. She watched him carefully, not trusting him yet. She still did not know what he would do next. She did not know if he would treat her badly or if he would help her. She had learned that people could be unpredictable. She had learned that kindness could hide danger. When he finally turned to look at her, she felt a small rush of fear. His eyes were dark and serious, again. He looked at her as if he was trying to understand her. He did not smile. He did not speak. Then, without warning, he reached down and untied the rope around her hands. The woman froze. Her heart began to beat faster. She did not move. She did not speak. She stared at him, unsure of what he was doing. The man held her hands gently, and for a moment she felt something strange. It was not fear, it was confusion. The chains were still around her wrists, but the rope was gone. He had removed the rope, and now he held her hands like someone who was trying to show her something. The woman did not understand. She did not know why he was doing this. She tried to pull her hands back, but the chains stopped her. The man did not force her. He simply held her hands and looked at her. Then he spoke. "You do not have to be afraid of me," he said in a quiet voice. The woman felt a shock inside her. She had not expected him to speak like that. She had expected him to shout or to insult her. She had expected him to tell her to stay quiet. But his words were calm. They were gentle. She did not respond. She did not trust him. She did not want to give him the satisfaction of hearing her speak. The man slowly loosened the chains around her wrists. He did not remove them completely. He just loosened them enough that they did not cut into her skin as badly. The woman felt a small relief. The pain was still there, but it was less. The man looked at her carefully. He seemed to be thinking about something. He seemed to be trying to decide what to do next. After a moment, he turned away and walked toward the small hill where he had placed some supplies. He picked up a water skin and walked back to her. He offered it to her, and she stared at it, unsure. Water was something she needed badly. She had been thirsty for days. She had been afraid to ask for water because she thought it might anger him. But now, he was offering it to her. He was giving her something she needed without asking for anything in return. She slowly took the water skin. Her hand shook. She lifted it to her mouth and drank. The water tasted cold and sweet. It felt like a miracle. She drank until her throat stopped burning. She felt her body relax slightly. The man watched her as she drank. He did not look away. He did not speak. He just watched. When she finished, She lowered the water skin. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, she saw something different in his face. She saw a small hint of sadness. It was not anger. It was not cruelty. It was something else. It was a feeling she could not name. The woman realized something. She realized that this man might not be like the others. He might not be cruel. He might not be someone who enjoyed seeing her suffer. But she did not trust him yet. She still felt fear. She still felt the pain of the chains. She still felt the weight of her situation. The man walked closer to her. He sat down a short distance away. He did not touch her. He did not move too quickly. He seemed careful, as if he did not want to scare her. Then he spoke again. "My name is Thomas," he said. "I am a rancher." The woman did not answer. She did not say her name. She did not want to share anything with him. She had learned that giving your name could make you easier to control. She had learned that sharing your story could make you weaker. Thomas seemed to understand. He did not ask her name again. He did not force her to speak. He simply sat there, waiting. The woman looked at the chains. She looked at the metal that held her. She looked at the ground, the sky, the desert. She looked at Thomas and she felt something strange. She felt a small spark of hope. She did not know why, but she felt that he might help her. She felt that he might be different from the men who had brought her. She felt that he might be someone who would not treat her like an object. But she also knew that hope could be dangerous. Hope could make you careless. Hope could make you trust the wrong person. She did not want to make that mistake. Thomas stood up slowly. He walked to a small bag and took out a piece of cloth. He walked back to her and carefully wrapped it around her wrists, where the chains had cut her skin. He did not say anything. He did not look at her. He just did it. The woman felt the cloth and felt a small wave of gratitude. She did not know how to express it. She did not know if she should express it. She did not know if gratitude would make her weak. But she felt it anyway. As the day went on, Thomas began to do small things. He gave her food. He gave her water. He moved her to a shaded area where the sun did not burn as much. He did not talk much. He did not force her to speak. He simply cared for her in small ways. The woman watched him carefully. She tried to understand him. She tried to understand why he was being kind. She wondered if he had a plan. She wondered if he was hiding something. But she also began to notice something else. She began to notice that Thomas seemed troubled. He seemed like a man who was carrying a heavy burden. He seemed like someone who had lost something important. The woman began to feel a small change inside her. She began to feel less afraid. She began to feel a small sense of trust. She began to feel that maybe she was not completely alone, but the chains were still there. They still held her. They still reminded her that she was not free. That night, Thomas sat by the fire again. He looked at the flames, lost in thought. The woman sat nearby, still chained, still tired, still scared. But she felt something new. She felt that maybe the future could be different. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know if she would ever be free. She did not know if Thomas would keep being kind. She did not know if the men who brought her would return. But she knew one thing. For the first time since she had been captured, she felt a small spark of hope inside her, and that hope, even though it was fragile, was enough to keep her alive. Days passed in the quiet ranch land, and the Apache woman began to learn the rhythm of this place. The desert was still around them, but the ranch itself was like a small island of life. There were fences, horses, and animals. There were fields where crops grew. There were buildings made of wood and stone. It was a busy place full of work, and yet it felt calm compared to the harsh desert. The woman was still chained, but the chains were not as tight as before. Thomas had loosened them, and he had moved her to a small shaded area near a stable. It was not a prison, but it was still a limit. She could see the world around her, but she could not join it. At first, she stayed quiet. She watched everything from a distance. She did not speak to anyone. She did not look directly at anyone. She did not want to be seen. She did not want to be judged. She did not want to be treated like a strange object, but people noticed her. The ranch workers were curious. They saw her sitting quietly, with chains around her wrists. They wondered who she was and why she was there. Some of them looked at her with sympathy. Some of them looked at her with suspicion. Some of them did not look at her at all. The woman noticed the attention. She did not like it. She felt like a bird in a cage being watched by strangers. She did not want to be stared at. She did not want to be discussed. She did not want to be judged. Thomas noticed it too. He could see how the workers looked at her. He could see how their eyes followed her. He could see how they whispered. He could feel their opinions. One day Thomas called one of his workers, a young man named Daniel. Daniel was kind and quiet. Thomas spoke to him in a low voice, and the woman could hear only a few words. "She needs water," Thomas said. The woman looked at Daniel, then back at Thomas. She did not know what was happening. She did not know if Thomas was asking Daniel to help her, or if he was warning him. Daniel approached slowly. He held a bucket of water. Daniel, stopping, down, 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 down. He did not look at the woman directly. He looked at the ground, then at the bucket, then at the woman. He seemed nervous. He offered the bucket to her, and she took it carefully. She drank quickly, then lowered the bucket. Daniel nodded and walked away. The woman watched him go. She felt a small feeling of gratitude. She felt a small feeling of trust, but she also felt a strong feeling of sadness. She felt sad because she could not speak to them. She felt sad because she could not join them. She felt sad because she was still chained. As the days passed, Thomas continued to care for her in small ways. He brought her food. He made sure she was safe. He moved her to a more comfortable place. He gave her a blanket at night. He made sure she was not left alone in the cold. But he did not talk to her much. He did not ask her questions. He did not force her to speak. He seemed to respect her silence. The woman began to wonder why he was being so careful. Why was he being kind? Why was he not treating her like the others did? Why was he not angry? She tried to think of reasons. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe he was sorry for what happened to her. Maybe he believed that she did not deserve to be treated like a prisoner. Or maybe he simply had a good heart. The woman wanted to believe that, but she did not want to be disappointed. She did not want to trust someone only to have them hurt her. So she remained quiet. One afternoon, Thomas came to her with a small bowl of soup. He placed it near her and then sat down a short distance away. He did not speak at first. He simply watched her. The woman looked at the bowl. She did not touch it. She was not sure if she could trust it. She was not sure if she could trust him. Thomas noticed her hesitation. He slowly spoke. "I know you are scared," he said softly. "I know you do not trust me, but I want you to know that I will not hurt you." The woman felt a small surprise. She had never heard someone speak like that. She had never heard someone admit that they understood fear. She had never heard someone speak with honesty. She did not answer. She did not know what to say. She did not want to say the wrong thing. She did not want to make him angry. Thomas continued. I do not know why you were brought here, he said, but I do know this. You are not a slave.
You are a
Human being. The woman felt something inside her change. She felt a small warmth. She felt a small hope. She looked at Thomas and finally spoke. My name is Nayali, she said quietly. The word felt strange in her mouth. She had not said her name in a long time. She had not spoken her own words. She had not felt free enough to use her voice. Thomas listened carefully. He nodded. Nayeli, he repeated softly, like he was trying to remember it. It is a beautiful name. The woman felt a small smile form on her face. She did not know why, but she felt happy. She felt like she had finally done something that belonged to her. She had spoken her name, and it had not been taken from her. For the first time since she was captured, she felt a small sense of control. She felt like she could be herself again, even if only a little. Thomas looked at her and then looked away. He seemed lost in thought. Nayeli noticed that he looked troubled. She wondered what he was thinking about. She wondered if he had a secret. She wondered if he had a reason for being kind. She wanted to ask him, but she did not know how. The next day, Thomas brought her a small book. It was old and worn, with pages that looked like they had been read many times. He placed it near her and then sat down. Nayeli looked at the book. She had never seen anything like it. She did not know how to read. She had never been taught. She had never had the chance. Thomas noticed her curiosity. He took the book and opened it to a page. He pointed to the words and began to speak slowly. This is a book, he said. It tells stories. It can teach you things. Nayeli listened carefully. She felt a strange feeling. She felt a desire to learn. She felt a desire to understand the world around her. She had been forced into silence for so long that the idea of learning felt like a gift. Thomas began to teach her simple words. He started with easy ones like water, food, sun, and home. He spoke slowly and clearly. He repeated the words until Nayeli could say them too. At first, Nayeli felt embarrassed. She felt like a child, but she also felt excited. She felt like she was discovering something new. She felt like she was growing. As the days passed, she began to speak more. She began to ask questions. She began to share small parts of her story. She did not tell everything. She did not want to reveal too much, but she began to open up. The ranch workers began to notice. They began to see Nayeli not as a prisoner, but as a person. They began to treat her with more respect. Some of them even smiled at her. Some of them began to speak to her. Nayeli still felt cautious. She still did not trust everyone, but she began to feel a small connection to the world again. She began to feel like she belonged to something. Thomas continued to watch her carefully. He continued to be gentle. He continued to respect her silence. He continued to show kindness without expecting anything in return. Nayeli began to understand something important. She began to understand that trust was not something that could be forced, that it was something that had to grow slowly, like a plant. She began to feel a small hope that one day she might be truly free. She began to feel a small hope that she might be able to leave the chains behind. But the chains were still there. They were still a reminder of what she had been through. They were still a reminder of the danger she had escaped. Nayeli knew that the journey was not over. She knew that she still had to be careful. She knew that she still had to survive. But she also knew something else. She knew that she was not alone, and that knowledge was enough to keep her moving forward. Nayeli felt the ranch become a part of her life. She knew the sounds of the animals. She knew the rhythm of the workers. She knew the smell of the fields. She knew the taste of food that was different from what she had eaten before. Everything felt new and strange, but it also felt safe. She began to feel a small sense of peace, but it was not complete. The chains still held her. The chains still reminded her of her past. The chains still made her feel like she did not fully belong. She began to wonder why Thomas had not removed them completely. She began to wonder why he still kept her chained, even if the chains were loose. One evening, after the sun had gone down, Nayeli sat near the fire. The workers were done with their work for the day. They were sitting together, talking quietly. Nayeli sat in a small corner, watching them. She felt a sense of loneliness, but she also felt a sense of comfort. She was safe, but she was still alone. Thomas sat near the fire, too. He was quiet, but he seemed to be thinking deeply. Nayeli noticed that he looked tired. She noticed that he looked older than the other workers. She noticed that his eyes held a sadness that she could not understand. She wanted to speak to him, but she did not know what to say. She did not want to make him angry. She did not want to make him feel uncomfortable. She did not want to ruin the small peace they had built. After a long moment, Thomas stood up. He walked toward her slowly. Nayeli watched him carefully. She felt her heart beat faster. She felt a small fear. She did not know what he would say. Thomas sat down near her. He did not touch her. He simply sat and looked at her. "Nayeli," he said softly, "I have been thinking." Nayeli looked at him. She waited for him to continue. Thomas took a deep breath. "I know you have been through a lot," he said. "I know you are scared. I know you have been treated badly. And I know you deserve better." Nayeli felt her eyes grow wet. She tried to hold back her tears. She did not want to cry. She did not want to show weakness. Thomas continued, "I have been thinking about the chains," he said. "I have been thinking about how they still hurt you, even if they are loose. I have been thinking about how they remind you of your past. And I have been thinking about what it means to truly be free." Nayeli listened carefully. She felt her heart beat faster. She felt hope growing inside her. Thomas looked at her with a serious expression. "I want to set you free," he said. The words hit her like a sudden wind. Nayeli felt her body go cold. She did not know how to react. She did not know if he was serious. She did not know if it was a trick. She did not know if it was safe. She looked at him, her eyes wide. "You want to let me go?" she asked softly. Thomas nodded.
Yes, he said. I want you to go.
"I want you to have your life back. I want you to be able to choose your own path." Nayeli felt a strange mix of emotions. She felt happiness, but she also felt fear. She felt joy, but she also felt doubt. She felt relief, but she also felt uncertainty. She did not know what to do. Thomas noticed her confusion. He continued, "I know you may not trust me," he said. "I know you may think I am lying, but I am not. I have been thinking about this for a long time. I have been thinking about what is right." Nayeli looked at him. She searched his face for any sign of deception. She searched his eyes for any sign of anger. She searched his voice for any sign of false words. She saw none. She felt a small hope. Thomas stood up slowly. "I will remove the chains." he said. But you must promise me something. Nayeli waited. You must promise me that you will not run into danger, Thomas said.
You must promise me that you will take care of yourself. You must promise me that you will not go back to the place that hurt you.
Nayeli thought about his words. She understood why he was asking. He was worried about her. He did not want her to be hurt again. He did not want her to return to the people who captured her. She nodded slowly. I promise, she said softly. Thomas nodded back. He reached down and touched the chains. He began to unlock them slowly. Nayeli felt the cold metal loosen. She felt the weight begin to disappear. She felt her wrists become free. When the chains fell away, she felt a strange feeling. It was like a heavy stone had been removed from her body. It was like she could breathe again. She felt tears in her eyes, but this time the tears were not only sadness, they were also joy. She looked at Thomas. She did not know what to say. She did not know how to thank him. She did not know how to express the feeling inside her. Thomas stood quietly. He did not speak. He seemed to be waiting for her reaction. Nayeli finally spoke. Why are you doing this? She asked. Thomas looked at her with a gentle expression. Because it is the right thing to do, he said. Because you deserve freedom. Because you are a human being. Nayeli felt a small smile on her face. She felt something inside her open. She felt like she could trust him now. She felt like she could believe in him, but she also knew that freedom was not easy. Freedom meant choices. Freedom meant responsibility. Freedom meant facing the world alone. Nayeli looked toward the dark horizon. She could see the desert beyond the ranch. She could see the wide, open land. She could feel the wind. She could feel the future. She felt a small fear. She felt the weight of the unknown. Thomas noticed her fear. You do not have to leave today, he said gently. You can stay here for a while if you want. You can learn more. You can build your strength. You can prepare yourself. Nayeli thought about his offer. She wondered if she should stay. She wondered if she should leave. She wondered if she could ever truly be safe. She looked at Thomas and felt a small trust. Thank you, she said quietly. Thomas nodded. You are welcome, he said. But remember, freedom is not just about leaving chains behind. It is about finding your own path. Nayeli listened carefully. She understood his words. She understood that she had a long journey ahead of her. She understood that she had to learn how to live again. That night, Nayeli slept without chains for the first time in weeks. She slept with a strange feeling in her heart. She slept with hope and fear together. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. She did not know if the world would accept her. She did not know if she would be safe. But she knew one thing. She was free. Tide, 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 and freedom, even when it is scary, is still better than being chained.
The morning after Nayeli was freed, the ranch felt different.
The air seemed cleaner, the sun seemed brighter, and even the birds sounded louder. Nayeli woke up with a strange feeling in her chest. It was not fear. It was not sadness. It was something else, something new. It was the feeling of hope. She sat up and looked around. She noticed the small things she had not seen before, the way the light moved across the room, the small dust particles floating in the air, the sound of the animals outside. She felt like she was seeing the world for the first time. She stood up slowly, feeling the freedom in her body. She moved her hands and wrists, making sure they were truly free. She felt the air on her skin. She felt the strength in her arms. She felt alive. Thomas walked in quietly. He noticed her standing and smiled softly. "You look different today," he said. Nayeli smiled back. She did not know why, but she felt different. She felt like she had returned to herself. She felt like she was no longer a prisoner. Thomas looked at her and then looked away. He seemed thoughtful. "I've been thinking," he said. "You can stay here as long as you want, but I also want you to know that you can leave when you are ready." Nayeli looked at him. She felt a strong emotion. She wanted to thank him, but she did not know how. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything." Thomas nodded. He did not say much more. He seemed to respect her words and her silence. As the day went on, Nayeli began to help with small tasks around the ranch. She was not forced to work, but she wanted to do something. She wanted to feel useful. She wanted to feel like she belonged. She wanted to feel like she was not just a person who had been saved, but a person who could help others. She helped feed the animals. She helped carry water. She helped clean the stable. The workers watched her carefully. They were curious, but they also seemed to respect her more. They saw that she was not a threat. They saw that she was strong and capable. Nayeli felt a small sense of pride. She felt like she was earning her place in this new life. She felt like she was becoming part of the ranch, not just a visitor. As the days passed, Nayeli continued to learn. Thomas taught her more words. He taught her how to read simple sentences. He taught her how to write her name. He taught her about the world outside the ranch. Nayeli listened carefully. She felt like her mind was waking up. She felt like she was becoming a new person. She felt like she could finally shape her own future. But even with the happiness, Nayeli still felt a small fear. She wondered what would happen if she left the ranch. She wondered if she would be safe in the desert. She wondered if the people who captured her would come back. One evening, Nayeli sat outside the ranch and looked at the horizon. The sky was painted with orange and pink colors. The sun was slowly disappearing. The world looked calm. The desert looked peaceful. But Nayeli knew that the desert could be dangerous. She knew that it could be cruel. She knew that it could take everything from you if you were not careful. She thought about her family. She thought about her home. She thought about the people she had lost. She felt sadness again. She felt a deep longing in her heart. She wanted to go back to her people. She wanted to find her family. She wanted to know if anyone was still alive. She also thought about Thomas. She thought about his kindness. She thought about how he had saved her. She thought about how he had changed her life. She wondered if she would ever be able to repay him. Thomas noticed her sitting alone. He walked toward her slowly. He sat down beside her, leaving a small space between them. He did not touch her. He simply sat. "Nayeli," he said softly, "I see you thinking." Nayeli looked at him. She nodded. "I am thinking about my family," she said. "I want to find them. I want to know if they are alive." Thomas listened carefully. He did not interrupt. He simply listened. "I understand," he said finally. "I want that for you, too. But we must be careful. The world is not always kind." Nayeli looked at him. She felt a small smile. She felt grateful that he understood. "Will you help me?" she asked. Thomas looked at her. His eyes showed a mixture of sadness and determination. "Yes," he said, "I will help you. I will help you find your family." Nayeli felt her heart beat faster. She felt a sudden hope. She felt a sense of joy that she had not felt in a long time. But she also felt a small fear. She wondered if it was safe to trust him with such a big dream. She wondered if he would be able to help her. Thomas noticed her fear. He spoke gently. "I will not promise you that everything will be easy," he said, "but I promise you that I will not abandon you." Nayeli felt tears in her eyes. She did not cry, but she felt the emotion deeply. She felt a sense of gratitude that was almost too big to hold.
The next morning, Thomas and Nayeli began to prepare for a journey. They packed supplies.
They gathered water. They prepared food. They planned their route. Nayeli felt nervous, but she also felt strong. She felt ready. As they walked, Nayeli looked at the land around her. The desert looked vast and empty, but she also saw beauty in it. She saw the soft colors of the rocks. She saw the plants that survived in the dry land. She saw the sky, wide and open. She felt a sense of freedom that she had never felt before. She felt like she could go anywhere. She felt like she could choose her path. Thomas walked beside her, watching her carefully. He did not speak much. He seemed focused on the journey. He seemed focused on keeping her safe. At one point, Nayeli stopped and looked back toward the ranch. She felt a small sadness. She felt a deep gratitude. She felt like she was leaving a place that had saved her life. She turned back and continued walking. She did not want to look back too long. She wanted to keep moving forward. Days passed and they traveled through the desert. They met people along the way. Some were kind, some were not. But Nayeli felt stronger now. She felt more confident. She felt like she could handle the world. One day, they arrived at a small village. Nayeli saw people who looked like her. She saw children playing. She saw women carrying water. She saw men working. Her heart beat fast. She felt a strong emotion. She felt hope. She walked into the village slowly. She felt the eyes of the people watching her. She felt the weight of the moment. She felt like her life was about to change again. Then a woman saw her and gasped. The woman ran toward her and grabbed her arms. She looked at Nayeli closely, her eyes wide with shock. "Nayeli?" the woman whispered. Nayeli felt her heart stop. She looked at the woman. She recognized her face. She recognized her eyes. It was her sister. Nayeli felt tears spill down her cheeks. She felt a joy so strong that it almost hurt. She felt like her heart was breaking and healing at the same time. Her sister held her tightly. Nayeli held her back. They cried together not because of sadness, but because of relief. They cried because they had found each other again. Thomas stood nearby, watching quietly. He felt a small smile. He felt a sense of peace. He felt like he had done the right thing. Nayeli looked at him. She felt a deep gratitude. She felt a sense of respect. She felt a strong bond. She knew that her life had changed forever. She knew that she would never forget the man who had set her free. And as she stood there with her sister, she realized something important. Freedom was not only about leaving the chains behind. Freedom was about finding your way back to the people you love. And in that moment, Nayeli understood that she was finally free in every way that mattered.